week's episode of Kabaneri of the Iron Fortress, a brand new advanced form of the evil Kabane finally arrives. The dual sword-wielding Wazatori. Man, this series has got some of the most kick-ass action scenes that I've seen in quite some time. I especially love the scene in this week's episode where Mume and Ioma team up while they battle on top of this speeding train as it's going through tunnels. That combined with the really great animation and the awesome music sequences make this action anime that all anime fans should definitely check out. I really love this series. It seems to get better with every single episode, and this one firmly established that a lot of the side characters are going to be very important as well. Especially the character of Ioma, who I thought at first was basically just going to be your typical princess, damsel in distress. Hell no! She gets right into the action this week with a big badass steam-powered bow and arrow. Not to mention you also have Kurusu, the slick-ass samurai, and a lot of other new characters who show up, and the very last scene of this week's episode honestly gave me chills, with all of the main cast hanging out on top of the train as the sun rises. It was a really fantastic sequence. So what's going on in this week's episode? Well, it immediately picks up from the last one where Mume had just filleted this one pregnant mother who had just turned into a Kabane, when suddenly thousands of Kabane just appear outside of the train, so everybody starts panicking, they jump into the train, and they have to make a quick escape. There's that one group of people on the train, however, who do not trust the Kabaneri, because, of course, they crave blood. So they decide to lock them in this one car at the end of the train, and they even go as far as to trying to get that part of the train to disconnect from the rest so that they can leave them behind. But before they have an opportunity to do that, that's when the Kabane finally decide to attack the train. And this is when another new concept of the series is introduced. The concept of the Wazatori. Now, before, the Kabane were basically just your sort of typical bloodthirsty zombie-type-like monsters, except the Wazatori have advanced to this point where they can actually use weapons. In fact, there's this one in this episode that can dual-wield 2 katana blades and moves around like a frickin' spider monkey. And this is when the bloodbath begins. Practically half the people on the train are just completely demolished and eaten alive by the Kabane, and there is nothing they can do to defend against these monsters. Try as they might, they even try to put up this big shielded barrier, and Kurusu even manages to pull out his cool samurai sword to go up against the Wazatori, and even with some great choreography sequences from him, he still manages to be bested by this creature, and actually ends up getting stabbed by one of his blades. So, luckily, he was not bitten. He is going to be able to live to fight another day. And then, of course, you have the Kabane, which are Mume and Ioma, who are hanging out in the other car, and the other people who are their friends who are sympathizing with them were also thrown into the same vehicle. So they have to make a quick escape before things go south. So Ioma and Mume go up on top of the train, and that's when they start kicking some Kabane ass. The music kicks in, the amazing animation begins, and my friends, it looks awesome. It's so well animated. I love the lighting, I love the fluid movements, and I absolutely love the camera sweeps. It just makes everything seem so fast and furious. I love it, especially the scenes with Mume. She still continues to be my absolute favorite character from the show. One, for how playful she is, how adorable she is, and how in just like a second she can immediately turn into a murdering machine. However, she's exhausted a lot of her power, so it's going to be up to Ioma to actually end up saving the day. And luckily he does, because his good friend Takumi was actually able to get him his big steam-powered gun back, and that allows him to come in and finish off the Wazatori in an amazingly flashy fashion by just jumping up on it, bitch-slapping the hell out of it, and pounding a big blow right into its chest. Damn, it's awesome! The other reason that this scene is so cool is because Ioma is also starting to freak out because he's having cravings for blood. But Ioma actually meets him on top of the train, cuts her arm, and allows him to actually feast upon her blood, which gives him the power to actually end up saving the day. And this is where all of the main characters decide to come together, and they say that they're going to offer their blood to the Kabaneri, because they're going to be very important to their survival. And you can definitely tell that these are actually the main characters from the series. One, because you see a lot of them in the intro, and two, they have very distinctive character designs. And like I said, that shot at the end of them hanging out on top of the train is just fantastic. It sent chills down my spine. This series gets better with every single episode, and it's not really breaking the mold in terms of anything, but it's doing it with a lot of gusto, some really great animation, and some fantastic music. I love the music in this series. It really complements every single action scene. Very similar to Attack on Titan, and it's produced by the same studio, so it makes a lot of sense. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of Kabaneri of the Iron Fortress? This episode right here was really simple, but something that I really enjoyed. I think my favorite thing about it is that we're finally starting to get a team built together. And we have this other group of people who initially did not trust Mume or Ioma. By the end of the episode, they're practically best friends with these people. That one girl who was looking after the kids, she ends up becoming good friends with Mume. Takumi's reunion with Ioma is also really good. You can still tell that they're very good friends. And even Kurusu, as much as he doesn't trust the Kabaneri, is actually starting to come over to their side just a little bit more. But mostly he's doing all of this because he's fighting for Ayame. And Ayame is a character in this week's episode which I think has evolved the most. Because when she was introduced at the beginning of the series, she was basically the princess who'd been kidnapped by the dragon who was stuck in the tower. No longer is she going to do that. She's going to get on the front lines and fight, and her steam-powered bow looks awesome. She even manages to attack some of the Kabane in this episode, of course with a little bit of help from some of the other soldiers. Another character that I really wish I would have mentioned in my last review is this one mechanic on the train, who apparently is of some European descent because he will occasionally just say some random things in English. The tank, repair. It's always really funny, but I love that guy. Aside from the action sequences, I also like the concept that there are going to be advanced forms of the Kabane that we've never actually seen before. I imagine we're going to see much smarter variants of them in the future, ones that can actually think and talk. The fact that we already have one that can actually use weapons is a really big deal. When that actually appeared for the first time, my first thought when I saw it was like, whoa, that thing can wield swords? What the hell is that about? Immediately we start to learn about them being the Wazatori, and Mume is the one who delivers this message, so she clearly knows a lot more about the Kabane than she's letting on. There's a lot of secrets that we don't know about yet, and I have a feeling she's going to have some sort of connection or tie to the origin of the actual Kabane themselves, but there's clearly a reason why she's not revealing everything quite yet, and it's probably going to be one hell of a shocker. I do like the fact that her relationship with Ioma is also growing quite a bit, especially with Ioma becoming a lot more competent, especially after he devoured Ayame's blood. Just, you could see the blood pouring into his heart, which suddenly started to glow, and then boom, he just jumps down and just backhands the crap out of this Kabane, and then jumps on top of it and finishes it off. It was such a great sequence, man. I really liked it. You know, this, superficially speaking, was basically just a big action episode of Kabaneri of the Iron Fortress, but damn did it look good doing it. It was also really, really intense, and the lengths that the Kabane will go to actually attack these humans is insane. Full-on kamikaze attacks. Like, when they're going in the mountains and going through all of these train tunnels, they will just wait until the train appears to just jump down on top of it, with only a couple of them being able to grab on, and the other ones just exploding on contact. It's a really over-the-top violent show, but it's incredibly stylistic, and it's got some great fighting choreography and some amazing characters who are evolving. They're changing. They're actually growing as the series goes on, and that's something that I think is really damned important. They're not just going to say the same old stereotypical selves. Like I said, Ayame from episode 1 is nothing like the Ayame that we see now, and that also goes for Mume and Ioma, and even all of the brand new cool side characters. So, awesome episode of Kabaneri and the Iron Fortress. I freaking loved this episode. I'm giving it a 5 out of 5. However, if any of you guys watched this week's episode of Kabaneri and the Iron Fortress, why don't you tell me what you thought about it in the comments section below. What was your favorite scene from this episode? Did you have a favorite character who appeared this week? What did you think of Ioma devouring the blood of Ayame and finishing off that Wazatori when no one else could? And what do you want to see from the rest of Kabaneri of the Iron Fortress? You guys are awesome! Thank you for watching this review. I really appreciate it. If you would like to, please subscribe to the channel, share this video with all of your friends, and check out all the cool links we got in the description box below. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby!